All right, welcome everybody to our very first presentation with guest speakers of the year. And today we have Deb and Peter Molzan. They're a real estate duo, the dream team, joining in to talk about downsizing, selling your home, kind of how to go about those things. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves and we'll get started from here. And I'm here if anyone needs any support.
Okay, thank you, Sarah, and thank you for inviting us. And it's nice to see everybody. And thank you for letting us join in. I'm Debra Molzan.
And I'm Peter Molzan.
Oh, and just to give a little bit of background about ourselves, that we're full-time real estate agents. I've been a realtor for 32 years now. I can't believe it. You know how time flies. And Peter's been a realtor now for about 22 years. And like I said, we are full-time and we just hope to keep this informal and that we'll be able to answer any questions that you might have. We've helped many people with the downsizing and making a move, and we're here to help. So we'll get started. So just during the pandemic, it affected so many of us. It affected all of us. And it affected how we do our real estate business. And you've heard the expression aging in place. Well, I like to add aging in the right place. We never know what life is going to throw at us, but it's very important to look at where you're living now and just to think about it. And are you really aging in the right place that is perfect for you? And we have just found over the years, there's, a few things that happen to us where we might start to consider about making a move. Maybe you just want to make a change, or loss of a loved one, a health setback. Your home is too large and too hard to maintain. Actually, this photo was taken last winter and we've been spoiled now this year. And I hate to think that winter's coming back, and sometimes, we get a little isolated and we start to feel lonely, or perhaps financially struggling, and it's time to maybe take a look at your finances, or you're not feeling safe anymore, or maybe you need a few more supportive services, or even you're not driving anymore, or you'd like to move closer to where your family and friends are, or you currently are owning and want to move to a rental. And life affects us, and there's many stressful events that we go through. And moving is actually one of the top 5 events that are most stressful. And we never can predict what the future is going to hold. But a lot of us are a little, I guess, you're not really wanting to make a move, just mainly because it's the fear of the unknown. You maybe have been in your home for a long time and you just don't know what's out there. And when you do decide to leave, actually, it's a big decision. We've even, are contemplating about downsizing. And I think, we've been in our home for over 30 years now, and we've got lots of memories. But it's just really important to remember that your memories go with you. Not too long ago, I was with a client and she was going through a big box of photos and she was shredding them. And I said, oh no, what are you doing? And her comment to me was, these photos, they're my memories, because she did a lot of traveling. And she said they wouldn't mean anything to anybody else. And she says, I'm going through these photos, they're bringing back memories, but she was just downsizing. And that's so true. We have our own memories that they're within us. This past Christmas, when I was putting away Christmas decorations, Peter said, it's time to get rid of those decorations that you didn't even put out. And I thought, what, you're right. So I started going through boxes, and would you believe I probably had about 100 Christmas cards. I've been collecting them, over the years. And so I started going through them and I thought, I thought back to our client that was shredding photos, and I thought, this is just so true. These memories, they're for, me. And if anybody else came through our house, like our kids, you know, they wouldn't mean as much. So this year I'm going to donate them. There's an organization that'll take Christmas cards. And just remember, everybody's situation is unique. You can't compare yours to your friends or other family members just because we all are different. Well, it's really important. It is a process that you go through, and you need to take the time to have a plan. If you do have a home to sell, you just can't decide to put it on the market. You need to have a plan as to where you're going to move to before you even consider putting your home on the market. And one of the first steps is to know your financial situation as well as your health situation. Sometimes people need a little bit more assistance, and there's so many different housing options out there, and it's best to do a little research to see what would best suit you.
And understanding the market is fairly important. I mean, everybody wants to know what they're going to get for their home. We just recently received the tax assessments from the city of Calgary. And a lot of people think that number that's on your tax assessment, that's how much your home is worth. And that's not true at all. There's a big difference between the city assessment and market value for your real estate. And the assessed value is actually a value that's determined over a year ago, and they use that to decide how much your city taxes are going to be, but it's not really anything to do with market value. What we're finding right now is that the assessed value is quite a bit lower than the market value, but that changes from year to year. So it's always a good idea to get a market evaluation, a proper market evaluation, to determine the market of the value of your home. And there's all sorts of things that affect the value. Right now, interest rates are increasing quite a bit, and mortgage rates are increasing. So that affects the number of buyers that are able to purchase your home and are actually looking for houses. The interest rates have gone up almost 5% within the past year. And this has eliminated a lot of first-time buyers from the home market. And since the first-time home buyer is probably the person that actually drives the real estate market, everybody steps up in the value of their home. But the first-time home buyer, if he can't buy a home, everybody is kind of sitting waiting for something to happen. Now we're going through a really interesting and unique situation in Calgary right now. The inventory levels are extremely low. I checked this morning, and we have under 2,000 properties for sale in Calgary. And typically in Calgary, we have about 6,000 properties for sale. I mean, it does fall off a little bit in December and January because of the holidays. So you know, that inventory level does come down. But I would think in a normal year, we would be closer to 4,000 properties for sale. So there's half of what there should be. And then I just read a report the other day that said Alberta now is the #1 province where people are moving to. So we're expecting a demand on the properties. So that should keep prices high as opposed to dropping, like you're reading in the media where they're talking about prices dropping in Canada. I think Calgary will probably do the exact opposite. And I mean, one thing, that real estate market is unpredictable and can change. The inventory levels can increase fairly quickly. We never know what's going to happen. It would be great if we had a crystal ball, but it is what it is. And like Forrest Gump says, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
Oh, that's for sure. And just the whole thought of moving can just give you a headache, but just remember it is a process. And if you just follow the process, it'll be a smooth transition. And one of the first steps is to gather your documents. most of us have a house file, from when you purchased your home. And so this is the time to pull out your file and just to see what documents that you still have. And when we're working with people that have a home to sell, one of the first things we do is we'll pull title, because this will tell us if there's any red flags that we need to deal with before your home goes on the market. And it also tells us who the registered owners are. I had met one lady who had called. She was interested in selling her home. And when I pulled title, I said to her, your name is on here, and who are these other names? There were 2 other names. And she says, well, I have 4 children, and 2 of my children I also put on title. And I said, well, when you add somebody to title, that means that they're considered an owner. So I said, we're going to need to talk to them, because they're going to have to sign all the documents, even though, she says, well, it's my decision. I says, well, I know that, but we still need, their permission, for you to sell, because their name is on title. Well, it just so happened 2 of those sons, she talked to both of her sons, and one of them said he didn't want his mom to move. So they needed to deal with that family, situation. And so that everybody was all on the same page with their mom moving before we could even list their home. And also on title, sometimes we'll find that there's been a mortgage still registered, and people say, I paid off that mortgage, 30 years ago, it shouldn't be on title. So this is the opportunity that we can find the paperwork and talk to lawyers just to make sure, and banks, that mortgage will be removed from title, and that indeed it has been paid off. And even some of the red flags might be a writ. This past year, we had 2 different situations. One where there was a registration on title, and it was put on there probably about 15 years ago, and it was an unpaid credit card. So it was a creditor, that had registered this on title. So we were able to, talk to them and just confirm, that it was going to be removed without any problem. We also bring lawyers in, talk to lawyers as well. And another one that they had been in their home for about 40 years. And there was a writ in I guess a long time, like in the 1980s, it was registered. And that was a really important red flag, because it was a lawsuit and a lawyer had registered a writ on title. And apparently that lawyer who registered the writ, he had passed away. So we just had to get the lawyer involved, because he'll probably have to go to court, just to get this removed from title. So it's just really important that we pull title. And also sometimes people have powers of attorney. I had met one lady that she had wanted us to do an evaluation. And when I thought she seemed a little off, and I pulled title, and she was the only one registered on title. And I just said, I think maybe we should talk to your son, and just to get him involved, which she thought was a good idea. So when I talked to the son said, my mom has dementia, and the power of attorney is in place. So I have power of attorney. So in this case, this is where we do our homework, so that we know that, whoever we need involved in the process is involved. And often we'll connect with lawyers as well.
Another document that you need is a real property report. And this is something that you would have received from your lawyer when you purchased your property. In the past, it was called the survey certificate. Now the real property report, it shows a little bit more information than what the survey certificate used to. And part of the offer is to say that everything complies with the City of Calgary bylaws. And the only way that a buyer would know that is by seeing the real property report. And this here is a copy of a real property report showing a house on a lot. And you can see on the property lines, there's little X's everywhere. That's the fence showing that it sits on the property line. And if there's any outbuildings or decks or window wells, air conditioning units, they show on the real property report as well. And there's regulations as to how far all of these things can be from the property lines. And the only way that they know that is by having a surveyor go out and doing this. Now, you may not need a brand new real property report. You might just need an update. So that's something to consider as well. And when a realtor comes out and looks at your property, if you have that document ready, they could tell you whether you're going to need an update or actually a brand new one. So that's something to gather up with the documents that you require as well.
What's the difference between an update and a brand new one?
Well, a brand new one, the surveyor is going to come out and they have to find the property pins and all these things, dig holes in the alley to find out where the pin actually is. If it's an update, they have the paperwork already. They're just coming to check that, your deck, where that's located or the buildings, air conditioning units, that sort of thing, right? They don't have to do as much work.
For an update, you would just use the company that you had used previously, and their name would be on the real property report. And other documents that you would need is if you're currently living in a condominium, you'll be familiar with condo documents. So it's a seller's responsibility to provide a buyer with documents such as bylaws, financials, minutes. There's a whole list of documents that are needed. And most management companies have the forms online now that most complexes have a seller portal that we can go on and download documents. And some of these documents are time sensitive, so you should not order them until you have an offer on your home. And your lawyer or your realtor will go through the documents that you have and help you order the documents that are required. And you can't do this alone. Just remember that there's all sorts of different professionals that are involved, with selling a home. And there's 3 different ways of selling your home. You could sell your home as is condition. We've heard this often as, I don't want to do any work, I just want to sell it as is. Or you can do repairs and updating. And it's just really important that you don't put money out that it might be really unnecessary. Because if you decide, I'm going to paint my house and get it ready to sell or change floor coverings, a buyer might come into your home and decide they're going to be changing floor coverings, and painting. So this is maybe thousands of dollars that you've spent that it really isn't necessary. And we have sold, many homes where people have been in them for years and they're still in original condition. And this is okay because there are many buyers out there that are looking at buying a home that's original condition so that they can make it their own and do the updating on their, just to what they would like to do. And with most homes now, there's home inspections that take place. And that would be a condition of the buyer where they would have a home inspector come and look at the home. And, if there's any major repairs, this would be discovered at that time. And Peter, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about a property inspection.
Yeah, like Debbie said, this is something that is paid for by the buyer, and it's to protect the buyer and make the buyer aware of any problems or issues that there might be in the home. So typically a home inspector spends a lot of time in your basement going through the mechanical system, looking at the furnace and the hot water tank, looking at the electrical panel. And what we find in a lot of cases with homes that still have the original owner, they may have developed the basement at some point in time and hide the electrical into the old electrical panel. Well, the building codes have changed over the years, and the panel requirements or the electrical requirements in a home today are considerably different than what was used or required many years ago. Now everyone has 1 or 2 computers. They have 3 or 4 televisions. The kitchens have a lot more appliances. So there's a bigger drain on the electrical system. So this does seem to be an issue with with a lot of the home inspections on older properties. But again, it's nothing that can't be overcome. It's just that's the type of thing that the home inspector is looking for. And he's not there to tear apart your home or do a deal. He's there for the benefit of the buyer so that they're aware of what they're getting into, basically.
And in your home file, if you have kept receipts from when you've had maintenance done, if you had a furnace checked or ducts cleaned, or you had a recent shingles update, if you have any of those receipts, it doesn't matter how old they are, it's just good information that we can have so that when we are marketing your home, we can let any prospective buyer know when these improvements were made. And then, of course, there's also staging of a home. And I've been in the business for so long. You know, when I started over 30 years ago, we didn't have stagers. Now there's a lot of people or companies out there that they're considered stagers. But to be quite honest with you, I don't think it's necessary that you need to have somebody come in and stage your home. Some of them get really carried away where they'll even take out furniture and bring in new furniture. So you can spend in thousands of dollars, which it really isn't necessary. And we all live in our home, and while we're living in our home, we are just making it comfortable and the way we like it. That's called staging your home to live, but there's also staging your home to sell. And this is where you start to pack up and downsize and get your home ready so that it's appealing to buyers when they come through. And if you are overwhelmed right now, and just like the picture, you know, we've been in many homes, you know, where people are a little bit overwhelmed, and sometimes people are maybe a little embarrassed and don't want anybody over, you know. Well, not to worry, we've seen it all, you know, and we have checklists and just go over with the whole process of downsizing. And when you're getting your home ready to sell, you have to think of it, we call it the hotel philosophy. This is when you're staging your home to put it on the market. When you think of a hotel, think of I love vacations, you know, so when you walk into that hotel, you know how it feels. Everything is so nice and clean. You walk into the bathroom and there's just minimal soaps on the counter. Well, when it comes time to staging your home, the big, I'd say the number one thing is people just need to remove the clutter. If your bathroom counters are full of soaps and shampoos, and people just don't want to see your toothbrush. So it's time just to clear off all this clutter off your kitchen counters as well. Just pack them away and put them out of sight. And just the easiest way, I'd say, is just to think of a hotel room. So when you start clearing off your dresser, you know, is it looking like a hotel room, your bedroom? Clean up your closet, maybe straighten it out a little bit, pick up the clothes that are on the floor. Nobody wants to see this. And right now, we have the internet. You know, years ago it came into play. So a lot of people are doing their shopping online first before they go and look at a home. We have a professional photographer that'll go out and take pictures of the home. So it's just really important that you're going to be proud when you see those pictures. And we do have checklists that we can pass along to you if you're interested in having them, and also right sizing tips, you know, as well as staging your home. So we'd be more than happy to pass these along. And with downsizing, who can help? Well, it's okay to ask your family and friends. In fact, I encourage you that if you're thinking of making a move, maybe you have a family member or close friend that you'd like involved in the process, that's okay. And even before you decide to make the move, like I mentioned before, it's really important that you see what's out there and what's available. So you can go and make tours of different retirement residences, just so you have an idea what you're looking at. And this will also help you with downsizing because you'll know how big of a suite that you're going to be looking at. But when you ask your family and friends, don't be disappointed if they say no. that a few years ago, we were working with a client. She was downsizing to move to retirement residence. And I said, should we call in a company to help with this? And she said, oh no, my friends are going to help me. So I thought, okay. So on moving day, I was there and her friends were there. And her friend said to me, you know, we really shouldn't be doing this. We're in our 80s and we're just too old to be doing this. So it's really important that you be a little sensible, you know, and make sure that you have the right help. And there are bonded and insured companies that specialize in helping seniors with downsizing. It's a whole process. They'll come into your home, and that's why I say it's important that you know where you're going, because they can help you decide what furniture you'd like to take with you. And the items that you don't want, they will donate. You know, they'll pack up and take to a charity of your choice. And of course, we all have items that there's no use and they need to go to the landfill. Well, they'll take care of all of that. And a lot of the moving companies also will supply the boxes. And the Kirby Center is a good resource. I'm sure you're all familiar with the Kirby Center, or Unison now that it's called, at the Kirby Center. Well, they have an information department and they have a wall of brochures. So all different companies, you know, have their brochures at the Kirby Center. So that's a good resource. As well as the Kirby Center has a next to new shop. So if you're thinking that you have clothes that you'd like to donate, you can think of the Kirby, or there's all sorts of different charities out there, you know, that would just really appreciate having your donated items. And as well as, I just want to mention the Kirby again, because they also have a food security program where they have a pantry. So if you're downsizing and you're moving to a retirement residence, and maybe you've got all sorts of different food items that you haven't opened yet, you know, well, you could donate them to a charity like that and know that they're going to be going to a good cause. And there's also companies out there that will buy your items, you know, like if you don't want to donate them. I know often we'll hear that people are using Kijiji, or there's all sorts of online platforms that you can sell, but we just say, just be a little cautious, because you just don't want any stranger coming into your home. This last year, we worked with a client where she was moving from her home into long-term care, and there wasn't much furniture that she needed to take with her. So the family was helping with the move, and they took the items that they wanted. And it just so happened that it was a first-time home buyer that was buying her home. And so the family suggested that perhaps they would like some of the items. And this first-time home buyer was just thrilled, you know, to get these items because they were starting out. So everything was going to be put to good use. And buying or selling a home is one of the most important decisions that you'll make. It's just really important to know that when you are using a real estate agent, we are licensed to trade in the province of Alberta with real estate. And we have to look out for your best interests. And should you move first and then sell? Often people will say, well, vacant homes don't sell. Well, that's false, because vacant homes do sell. We've sold many of them. It just all depends on your personal situation. Sometimes, you know, it's affordability. So this is where we go through your finances and with you, go over all the expenses so that we have a plan of actions that would best suit you. And sometimes, you know, people are able to move to their next place before their home has to be sold. So this gives a little bit of time, you know, so that you can decide what you'd like to take with you. But I can say everybody's situation is a little bit different. And the main cause, if a home isn't selling, it's typically overpricing. So it's really important that you know what price range your home should be listed at. I always say, just get on with your life and let the fun times begin. And it's really important that you are aging in the right place and just start planning today so that you can enjoy tomorrow. I like this little Irish saying that may you always have the courage to take a chance. I think we all need that courage, and we can do this. So if you have any questions, we'd be more than happy to answer them.
Oh, that's wonderful, you guys. Are you still screen sharing, or can we pop out of the sharing screen so that we can all see each other when we ask questions?
Okay, no, that sounds good. And I will, and I just want to say thank you again to Sarah and the Rec at Home program for including us.
Oh, thank you guys so much for coming. Now, this is, I love that. And I wrote down a couple of things that I had because I thought, ooh, I want to know more about that. So when you said like putting a fresh coat of paint on or doing small repairs around the home, that doesn't help like when you're selling. It's like, are you wasting your money? You're throwing good money after bad just to kind of make it look prettier? Like you should not do that, you said?
Every situation is a little unique. And when you just start looking at staging, maybe, by painting, like if you take down maybe some of the artwork and you can rearrange furniture, this might be all you need to do. So I wouldn't, I would say have your evaluation and talk to your realtor first before you make any changes. Like sometimes people get carried away and start thinking, well, I need to put in new floor coverings. And the younger generation, they really don't want to do a lot of work. They like to move in. But keep in mind, you can spend thousands of dollars, on updating a home. And it might, it'll never end. Like, where do you stop?
Yeah. And it's as we're talking about the home inspector, when I bought my home about 6 or 7 years ago, I had a home inspector come in and then he said, yep, everything's tip top. I don't even remember where I found him, but yeah, everything's good. And then he left and I paid him. And then after all the house was sold and in our name, the hot water, the furnace needed to be changed out. We needed a new furnace and one of the plugs on the wall didn't work. So I had to get an electrician in and I was like, grr.
Well, and that's something too, where you have to be careful with who you hire.
Yeah.
The home inspectors aren't regulated properly, and there was a time period there where anyone could take an online course and then become a home inspector, and these people have now been grandfathered into the system. But I know that for a while there was a problem with IT people getting jobs. There was too many of them, or accountants even. And I would be on a home inspection and I was watching or listening to the fellow make his comments. And I'm thinking, well, what is your background? And I would hear that they were a former accountant or a former IT person. And they really didn't know a whole lot about the home other than they owned one. So, what kind of information can they really give you? Yeah. But there are people out there that have a building background and they're quite familiar with the electrical or the mechanical part of a home, and they're reputable people. So they are out there. You just have to be careful on who you hire.
So would you say find a organization or something like that, or because I don't even remember how we found that guy, but I know it wasn't I don't take things like that lightly. So it was it's got to be good, and then
yeah. And you know what? I mean, quite often the realtor will recommend people or home inspectors that they work with. But there are people on Kijiji that claim they're home inspectors as well. And if you're trying to save $1 if the buyer's trying to save $1 and they hire somebody that's $100 or $150 cheaper than the other guy, well, there's probably a reason for that.
Yeah, you get what you pay for.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Well, I didn't do that, guys.
Oh, no. But it's important that when you're selling a home, not to be worried about a home inspection, because this is for the benefit of the buyer. And if something comes up, we just deal with it, because it would be a surprise. Or if there's something that you already know about, we'll just disclose it and property is sold as is, and we're making a disclosure.
Yeah.
And keep in mind too that everything is negotiable. So quite often what happens in a home inspection, if there's problems with the house, for example, the furnace or hot water tank is going, the buyer will probably come back and say, okay, this is the issue. Will you replace this furnace for me?
Or
Now,
take money off the sale.
or take the money off the sale. You can split the difference. I mean, it's not the end of the world to have a bad home inspection.
Yeah.
Are home inspectors allowed to move furniture?
No.
So if they do and break it, would they then have to replace it?
Well, I would think so, yeah. Or the other realtor would have to, the realtor representing the buyer.
Yeah,
And
we were told it was our tough luck. They ruined our carpet. They ruined a dresser. They broke dishes that were in a dishwasher that was running so that they shouldn't have even touched it.
Oh, wow.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness, that's a horror story. But
Yeah,
they do have
it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare.
They do have insurance, these home inspectors, but I always say that when there is when a seller's selling their home and there's a home inspection, if the buyer's realtor is not going to be present, then we are there, so I make sure that there's a realtor.
Yeah, there was nobody but this daft inspector that, as far as I know, but he damaged a lot of stuff. And then they said, too bad, that's your risk of having an inspection done. And I've never had an inspector wreck anything before. No.
That's really unfortunate that you had
but
to go
it was a nightmare. They tore carpet. They broke a dresser. There was broken glass in the dishwasher because they broke some plates.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And then they said, well, it's your tough luck, you can deal with it.
Doesn't sound reputable at all.
Yeah.
This is not okay.
Well,
No, and I just want to come back to something you asked earlier, Sarah, about painting. And I think a little bit of common sense has to be added to that or used in a situation like that. I mean, if the house is really beat up and there's holes in the walls and that sort of thing, well, those should probably be fixed. But if you're just painting the house for the sake of painting it, keep in mind that the colors that you choose aren't going to appeal to everybody.
Yeah.
So you might decide, okay, this is a very trendy color. This is what I want. People are going to like this. And you're going to have buyers come through to say, well, you know what? The first thing I got to do is paint.
Yeah.
So what was the point really, right?
Yeah. And then you lose out on a sale and your heart is broken.
Yeah.
I love that color.
Actually, what I did in one home that was vacant and needed some updating is I put, I went to Benjamin Moore and got one of their colors and sort of staged it so somebody could make it their own, by putting that little bug in their ear, that they could do their own thing to make it their own.
Yeah, you incept, right? You incept them, just like, just make a little, like, what's the word I'm looking for, guys? When you just tell somebody, oh, I think you should do this. And then it's like, maybe I should,
Yeah,
Get
them thinking.
Yeah, exactly. Hint. Thank you. I could not think of the word hint. Oh. Does anybody else have any other questions? Well, it's not really a question. But I was just, when you guys were talking about the pictures and downsizing and her just shredding all of her pictures, I took a breath and I thought, Laurel, because Laurel, you're downsizing right now and she's going through all her pictures. Why don't you tell a little bit, Laurel?
Okay, what I'm doing is scanning my pictures to my computer. And then my son is taking the pictures because he wants to go through them. He said he probably won't do that until after I've passed. Thanks, honey, for bringing that up. But he wants them. That's fine. He can have them.
Yeah, because it is those memories, right?
But like I said, I couldn't just shred them. Like I said, everything's being scanned.
Yeah.
And actually now they have the little photo books that you can make. And I actually have this huge bin, like full of photo albums, and my plans on a rainy day, is to go through them and scan them and then make up little books because they would be easier to keep.
Just to let you know, I had 2 large tubs and 3 regular sized tubs of photo albums, loose pictures, and documents. That's it, in all those bins. And I now have 1 bin of pictures my son has to take, and I have 1 bin of stuff that I'm keeping.
Oh, well, you know what? You're fortunate that your son wants to take those, because quite often you're going to hear that the children really don't want any of your stuff. And I know Debbie asks our kids every so often if they want to take this or that. And I mean, the answer is always no, we don't want any of your junk. Now she's asking the grandchildren if they would take it.
Yeah, and actually, I went through stuff with my son so that what we were getting rid of was not stuff that he would have wanted. And what we kept was stuff that he felt was worth treasuring. Because he's the one that's going to have to pack it from house to house as the military moves him around. And so, he took what he wanted, and probably over the years, some of that'll disappear. But one of the things, I did put everything on the computer, but I also put it on like DVDs, so that when he's storing it, it's very small. So he's got it in 2 formats just in case something happens to the originals. But because some of the originals are very old, because we got some that were from my grandmother and whatever, those are pretty special. And they're the kind of thing you use with a family tree. So he has all of that. But we went through it and didn't keep anything that he wouldn't have wanted when the time comes that he has to haul everything away.
Well, you know what, and I think the important thing is that you both are proactive, and you started the process, and quite often we hear from people that they find it overwhelming, and it's easier to do nothing than to even try and get started or have the conversation with their children. So kudos to both of you that you're doing this, and it's a big process. It's a tough decision, and it is hard to do for a lot of people. So good for you.
And we just went through that with our sons as well. And our oldest son says he doesn't want anything but cash and my good jewelry, not even anything else. But my mom always would put a sticker on the bottom of something that we had given her, or that somebody had mentioned at some point that this is important to them, they'd like it. So when the time came, everything was already documented, basically.
It's a good idea.
That's a really good idea.
And actually what started me on this whole process was we had the deacon from our church was talking about one of our parishioners who is almost 90. She had her own house. She was independent. She went into the hospital and then straight into care facility. So she didn't have any access to her house or anything after that. And David had said she needed to have looked after this when she was like 80, kind of organize things or whatever. And I'm thinking, he said 75. And I said, 75, that's way too close to me. We'll try 80. And then I thought, actually, he's right. Why am I hanging on to this stuff? So I started downsizing.
Well, and you never know. I mean, health problems can come out of the blue, right? And
exactly.
You hear that quite often where people are in the hospital and they won't let them go back home. The medical practitioners feel that they're not able to take care of themselves properly, and they're forced to go into a retirement residence or someplace else. So all of a sudden, the issues in the home become left to the family, and I mean, they may mean something to some of your family members. They may mean nothing, right? So it's
and they've lost control.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Well, if there's no more questions, I just want to give a quick shout out to Terry and Kathy joining all the way from Texas today.
It might look different.
Yeah, it's much nicer out there. We're all outdoors.
Are you on holiday?
We're down here for 3 months. Yeah, we decided to get away from the snow.
Oh,
and the
you're
cold.
snowbirds.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank
very
you so
nice.
much, Peter and Deb, for this. This was really good information.
Yes.
That's good.
Our
Yeah.
pleasure.
Wonderful presentation. Oh, there's Faye now. Hi, Faye. Just in time for the applause. Thank you, Peter and Debra, so much for coming. And always remember, you're welcome anytime. We can do this anytime. And if there's any other questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to pass any information about Peter and Deb forward to you guys. Anything that Peter and Deb you guys want to give me, I'm happy to email out to the participants. And we'll hopefully get to see you guys again. And since you're here, you gotta end with us. We always say only love and wreck at home.
Oh, I saw that. Oh, is that right? The right way?
Yes, it is. Thank you guys so much for coming today and donating your time. And thank you everybody for being here to participate in this. And you guys, all the participants, if you come back this afternoon, we're going to have some more fun chair yoga and bananagrams. So come on back if you want. And if not, I'll see you later this week. It's like a Scrabble. Get your brain working.
Oh, boy. Well, thank you. And
Thanks a lot,
thanks to
guys.
everybody.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.